Welcome to the Crazy Dre Podcast Show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's your main man, a.k.a. Crazy Crockett, a.k.a. Andres Podcast, folks. Today, folks, since I have the day off, and I don't usually have this day off on the Dr. King Day, Dr. Martin Luther King Day, I thought I would talk about him. And I don't just talk about the Detroit Lions or the sports, and talk a little bit about politics, but this is coming down to the line where this is something that's worth talking about. Dr. King, the civil rights leader, one of the leaders out there back in the 50s, 60s, who helped to pass laws to make it more equal rights for all Americans, especially the African American community, to be able to have better access, just not to voting, but transportation, jobs, and everything else that you could ever just take it granted for. So I kind of want to talk about this guy. I don't know if I should, because it's a cliche for white people to talk about a man who it's a bit distance to or from. I'm not from that generation, but I'm going to take my perspective about this guy. So obviously, most of you guys know that I'm disabled. We got some learning disability and some physical disability. And I think with my upbringing, my parents were always kind of open-minded to my heroes or heroisms that I would have. Dr. King was one of the first ones of my young youth that I kind of, for some weird way, I was always into the civil rights movement or some part of African American history. As some of you guys know, I do talk about Malcolm X at times. But today, I need to talk about Dr. King. So basically, in a bookshelf, I look at pictures of slaves and lynchings of slaves and all these history books. And I read about Dr. King and Rosa Parks and any other or civil rights leader. And I think what astonished me about it is that I just didn't understand the hatred towards people. And I didn't really comprehend that racism in my own set of ways or set of mindset. And even though I grew up with a white family and a white cultural and very Dutch world, it was just kind of mind-boggling, and it wasn't like my city or my town or my area made a big deal of it or had any racial issues with other minorities or other ethnic groups or cultures and all that, because it was so separated from most of African Americans or Latino community. This is basically Dutch conservative Republican Christians. But for me, it was something different. I think I probably kind of associate with it because I too was mocked for the way I looked and the way I talk. I used to stutter a lot more. I usually do stutter. If you listen long enough to any of my podcasts, I have problems pronouncing names and words, and stuff doesn't come out so clean at times. So I attached onto the civil rights movement, and Dr. King was one of the first that I got into. It was interested in. I actually even did a play in 5th grade for some reason during the Dr. King week of January, between the 16th and the 21st of that week. And my mom was the one that taped it and videoed it, and I had an Asian kid play one of the black kids. We didn't have any black people in our school, but we did have one or two Asian kids that went to our school. But I did a whole setup, the whole assassination. I got, I was, unfortunately for Dr. King, it was assassinated for on April 4, 1968, from a guy named James Earl uh, James Earl Ray, and Ray. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think that I attached to him because I was mocked in school, and I had something to associate my own life with. And even though I wasn't black and I didn't get discriminated against to go to any venues or any place, I never like I did get called retard or stupid or people would remind me that girls only liked me because I was disabled. So I associate with them. And 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 that's something that was always significant to me. And when I started to grow up and realize who this man was, I realized that going to work and having a job was a lot of it because of the civil rights movement. And along the way, other people and other cultures and other religious groups were able to have the same rights as the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence stated. That all men were created equal. Um, so that kind of associated with that idea with me being physically disabled, it gave me an opportunity to work and to find a job or to at least have an identity of trying to do something with my life. And I know that I talked about how strange it is to be disabled and knowing that I'm not smart. A lot of dumb people don't know that they're stupid or that they're not highly intelligent. They think that sometimes they think that everything is against them and it's because of them, not because of that person and people making fun of them, that's not themselves. But for me, I understood at a very young age that I was the issue. I was the problem. It wasn't the reason of other people being jerks to me or the reason of people discriminating against me for work or anything. It was because I was unable to be taught multiple uh, um, uh, assignments or multiple um, classes to learn to get a bachelor's degree in college or whatever. So so I I I I understood that. And by having this guy, Dr. King, fight for his civil rights movement, gave the possibility of being having rights in the 90s by George uh, H. Bush passed a law for people with disability being allowed to work and then equal opportunity to work. So that really falls from the apple of the tree of Dr. King. So that to me is kind of something to really reflect that he wasn't just talking about African Americans; he was really talking about all people. And his language isn't just for that era of the 60s or the late 50s, but the era of all generations, and from even from the time of the Civil War or pre-Civil War. I mean, he basically kind of put a platform for everyone out there that was struggling. So, I mean, by the 1950s, or even after the Civil War, the Jim Crow laws were in place where it became difficult for black people to even have the right to own land or get paid or even go into any facility to eat or to purchase food or to sit down or separation between whites and blacks, the bathrooms, drinking fountains, everything was separated through the Jim Crow laws. So that's something that a lot of people will take for granted. And I don't know if a lot of people in today's generation will know or care, and I think they should care, but I think they do know. But by the 1950s, as it was uh, the President Dwight Eisenhower who foresaw changes in the law, so that African Americans were be able to learn in public school systems and not be segregated from schools and so on. And it just takes it just took forever. And of course, we got to talk about the boycott of the 1955, I think, in Alabama, where a young lady, Rosa Parks, but she wasn't the first to do so. It was other. It was actually a person of a young girl that was in school at high school, and she had a darker complexion of the skin, and she refused to stand up for the white person to sit down in that area. And they had Rosa Parks do that because they thought that the media would take more recognition of a light skinned black person being discriminated against to ride the bus or to move back to the bus. And that's basically what it was. She was sitting there, she worked long hours, and the white guy came on the bus, told her to get out of the seat to sit in the back, and she refused to. And that's kind of how Dr. King got involved. And then eventually he went to Seoul, and he went to city to city and place to place, and a lot of his people and a lot of white people as well would go into white establishments, refuse to get out of the seat without being served. Some people would consider those riots between the whites and the blacks something that was pretty dramatic and pretty harsh. And Dr. King and some of his people would get hurt or they would go to jail. And that's something that they used to be able to do back before the civil rights movement. Is if they thought some black kid was causing problems because they made it up in their head, they could arrest that young black child or the young black man or the young black girl. And I don't know how to just say it without sounding like I'm a racist jerk. Like that young black person. It makes me sound ridiculous. So bear with my terminology of how to describe the story or describe what I'm trying to say. But that was part of the civil rights movement, is that they refused to leave any establishment that was owned by a white person that would not serve them. And a lot of people would consider that to be backwards, to cause a problem, to cause a fight. And I remember going to a psychology class. I think, it was a psychology class, and that was one of the questions. Did Dr. King do his people a service by going to establishments and refusing to leave and then causing riots? Some people call it riots, some people call it movement. You depending how you determine what the point of view is up to you. But this guy did this because it had to be done. I don't know, and unfortunately, most of these laws didn't pre-civil rights movement, and even months after the death of Dr. King, it didn't really go out so smooth. It just prolonged, and Congress and the Senate and the House would try to filibuster a bill that would allow African Americans to go to public schools or vote, find ways to stop the movement or stop African Americans from having equal rights. So that said, we have to always remember that there's a lot of things to be done. And, I'm not going to focus on the incarceration of Black Americans, because that's a whole different field of something that I can't wrap my brain around it. I know that having less jobs, having less opportunities for any American is not good. Taking American jobs out of the country is horrible for all Americans, not just blacks, but not just whites, but everybody. But saying that incarceration, I don't want to name a blame game from this point of view, that point of view, but I do think that we should at least talk about a couple people who are successful African Americans who are not athletes, like Michael Jordan or Dr. J or anybody that's that you watch on TV, or Jay-Z, who's a hip hop artist. I'm going to talk about. First guy I'm going to probably talk about, because I didn't know that he owned Fubu for Us By Us, is a guy named John Damon. And some of you guys know him through the Shark Tank show about people trying to kick the business, and these millionaires can invest in their company, and then they cut out the share of if they make money off this company. But John Damon founded For Us By Us, and I remember that clothing line came out in the later part of the 90s, and it was pretty cool that they created a clothing line for his people. And he also owns a Blueprint and Plus company. So, and this company, I believe it's it offers a technology solution company for people that need extra help to run their business. Another person I want to talk about is Alex Karp, the co-founder and CEO of Palantir Technologies, and it's a software. It's a data managed software firm that offers software platforms for commercial businesses, and it helps civil government sectors like the health department. So those are the two people that that they are successful African Americans. So I didn't want just to focus on just people like Michael Jordan or Oprah. They're celebrities for different reasons. Michael Jordan, obviously one of the best basketball players in the 90s. Oprah, she did her thing on TV. Jay-Z did his thing on music. So, there's also another person named Robert F. Smith, who's the owner of a private equity firm called Vista Equity Partner, and this is he's a founder of a friendly investor and investing in software company that's over $100 billion in assets. So that's another person, another African American that's very successful. So I wanted to just not talk about the struggles of African Americans, but I wanted to talk about the success of African Americans. And I really don't have any solution for African Americans who are very in stress times of financial problems, or any prison or incarceration problems, because we know what the problem is, but there's just no way to wrap your brain around it and how to fix it. We can try to wrap our brains around it, but there's not a clean cut version of A, B, and C to get down to Z. So I didn't want to focus on that. But remember, folks, Dr. King did a lot of things, not just for the Black community, but he did a lot of things for the disability community. And he taught me at least one thing, is like, don't give up. and to just keep working and keep doing your thing, and hopefully I find myself a better position, a better opportunity to make my life easier as I get older, to have a better life, or to have a better employment, or to enjoy my life more. And his way of thinking is, it's not about the color of your skin, it's about the character of the person. And it really is. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, I just can't fathom to think anything else more or less to say. So remember, folks, life is never easy. Everything is anything that you really want is always going to be a struggle. If he and his if he and his people can do it, so can you, and so can I. So so thank you for listening to the Crazy Dre podcast show. You can always find me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can download my podcast. It'd be great. Follow me on Patreon. Follow me um, on YouTube. I'm there too as well. So peace, love, and I'm out of here. God bless, and thank you, Dr. King.